Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today I'm going to be trying a few samples of some whiskeys from a distillery, well, not distillery, a non-distilling producer that I have never had anything from them before. So this is Old Louisville Whiskey Company. And so they're, like I said, NDP, non-distiller producer. And it's a husband-wife duo. So Amin used to own a couple of liquor stores in Louisville, sold them, and took the profits from his sales to start his own brand here. And his whole goal here is really just to raise the bar and to deliver what he describes as a premium or super premium product. So because of that, just kind of bear that in mind, that he's not doing anything younger than 7 years. You're never going to buy from them. He says he doesn't want to sell young product. So he's sourcing barrels from lots of different places, mostly though MGP. He then brings these barrels to his warehouse there in his facilities there in Kentucky, and continues to age them there, play around with them, be a bit of a mad scientist, play around with different finishing barrels and different char layers, levels, toasting, and then things like what kind of wood barrel am I going to finish in? Is it Mizunara? Is it French oak? Is it going to be a cognac cask? Is it going to be a sherry cask? Lots of just mad scientist, experimental stuff like that. And so anytime he sells bottles, it's going to be very small batches or single barrels, and it's going to be at least 7 years old. So because of that, the prices on these bottles from Old Louisville are a little bit higher. Okay, you're not going to pay under $100 for anything from them, I don't think. So everything that I've seen from them is at least $100. We have two $150 bottles represented here today that we're going to try, and one $100 bottle. We're going to start with the $100 bottle and then move on from there. And I will let you know, because that's not a small ask, right? $100 is a lot of money for a single bottle of whiskey. So I will let you know what I think about these and if they are worth your time and energy and investment to hunt down and to grab online. So first one we're going to try today is going to be a 7-year MGP bourbon. This is actually high rye, finished in a cognac cask. Okay, so high rye bourbon from MGP, 7 years old, cognac cask finish. This is a $100 bottle. It is notably very light in color. Very light in color. Almost looks more like a Pilsner in the glass, or apple juice rather. It has sort of an apple juice sort of a color to it. Funny I say that because the very first thing I get on the nose is like apple cider vinegar, and I get like green apple Jolly Ranchers as well. That sour candy note on the nose for sure. Yeah, both sweet and tart on the nose of this one. Let's try it. Cheers. Up front on the palate, it's a burst of citrus and yellow fruits. It's very timid. It's not very spicy, but I am definitely getting that sour candy note right up front. But then later into the palate and on into the finish, that's where the cognac kind of comes around, and I start getting some of that stemmy grape sort of a note. Fresh grapes right off the vine. But that is a very light whiskey. Yeah, very palatable. Nothing about that is abrasive or brash. There's no base to it really either. It's all very bright and top heavy. Altogether, not bad though. What I'll do is I'll go through all three of these, and then I'll give like a summary of my thoughts at the end of it. So I'll talk about value and whether or not I recommend any of these bottles for you, all at the end when we wrap it all up. Sound good? Let's move on to the second one. So this one is darker in color, much darker in color than the last one. More copper. It's a 7-year-old MGP weeded bourbon, and this is French oak finished, and it's toasted oak. So not charred oak. And this comes in at $150. Nose of this one gives me maple and brown sugar vibes, almost like a Quaker oatmeal, maple and brown sugar oatmeal. Very sweet, but also lots of oak present on the nose as well. You can definitely tell it spent some extra time. And French oak is definitely known for being really tannic and dry. And you get sort of that anise note on it as well, sort of licoricey. All right, let's try it. Cheers. I like that one a lot more than the first. That licorice note definitely comes through front and center on the palate. Sort of feels like the star of the show. And a lot of that French oak coming through the dry tannins. Almost like you would get the same kind of mouthfeel you'd get out of like a Merlot or something. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like molasses more than maple syrup on the palate. That thick, chewy sweetness. Yeah, I would say that stands head and shoulders above the cognac finish. But it is $50 more expensive. Part of me wishes it wasn't a weeded mash bill though. Part of me wishes this was like full send on the bourbon high corn. Just to get some more of those stewed corn notes in there as well, alongside the licorice and the anise. But altogether, that's pretty good. I like that. And now we move on to the final bottle that we're trying today. This one is also very similar in color to the last, pretty dark, pretty coppery. But this is part of their single barrel program where a club or an organization, a restaurant or a store or whatever can go in and hand select a barrel from their warehouse that they like and want to bottle up for themselves. And this was done by a club in South Carolina called the Soda Boys. Good folks. So this is going to be 11-year-old MGP juice. Comes in at 106 proof and costs $150 per bottle. Let's nose it. First thing that comes to mind is butterscotch pudding. Takes me back to grade school. And they remember those trays we get at lunchtime? They had like little squares and rectangles popped out of them. They just slop different things down into them. And one of them would have your butterscotch pudding. That's this. Or like those snack packs. There's some decent oak on the nose, but not quite as much of that barrel funk that I was kind of hoping to get on an 11-year-old product. You know that sort of damp funkiness you get on a well-aged bourbon? It's there, but it's pretty subtle. Altogether, that's a really sweet nose. Let's try it. Cheers. Not overly complex. Sweet up front, dry on the finish. Dry oak to finish it off. That sweet vanilla and butterscotch right up front. But there's really not a lot of nuance to that sip. Yeah, I guess for $150 for a bottle of this, I'd want it to pack a little bit more of a punch. Give me some of those base notes as well in there. This is really bright and sweet with a dry finish, but I'm not getting a whole lot of nuance in here, not a lot of variables. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good bourbon, but for a $150 price tag, I think I would want more of an experience out of this than it's offering me right now. A big shout out to Matt, who graciously sent in samples from all three of these bottles. I mean, this is, between these three bottles, you're looking at $400 of investment here. A $100 whiskey, $150, and a $150. So, very gracious of you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Of these three here, what would I, as my initial impression of Old Louisville, what would I say about their product so far? Just with my, and take it with a grain of salt. It's a very limited snapshot, just a three bottle representation here of what they've got going on there. So, take it with a grain of salt. But here's how I feel about it so far. I don't think I would buy the Cognac finish for $100. That's a lot of money for something that, it was not bad. None of these were bad, don't get me wrong, but they have a pretty hefty price tag. And I certainly understand it. You know, you're a small operation. You have to pay a premium for that product because there's a lot of variables for them where they have to make up the money that they invested on this product because they bought whiskey somebody else distilled. And then they paid for cooperage for these other barrels, or they bought barrels in general that had already been used for a different purpose. They had to buy those off of somebody else. So they're buying product from multiple places just to get it into their warehouse so that they can tinker with it and then hand bottle it and then sell it online. So I certainly don't argue that the price tag is fair and reasonable because I understand they need to make their money back on their investment. But all of these are expensive. I would consider any whiskey that it's $100 a bottle for just that much liquid in one bottle. That's expensive. There's no way around it. So I would consider these to be a little bit of a premium price tag for the product. So that's going to affect the way that I see these. I don't think I would buy the Cognac finish for $100. There's some other Cognac. I've got Eastern Kill Cognac finish right here, and I think that that's every bit as good as this one. But it's only $60, and that's a really good product. So I think I would want definitely more of the base notes and more of those grapey sort of fortified wine notes that you get off some really good Cognac finishes. I would want more of that on that bottle if I were to pick it up with my own money. The French Oak, this is the one that to me stands out. I think that that was a really good sip. I like that quite a bit. I think that I would be inclined to pick up a bottle of their French Oak wheated bourbon. I think that that one had a great complexity to it where it was both sweet and vegetal. It brought some of those anise and licorice notes, but it wasn't too heavy in that it was off-putting. It was well balanced with the sweet notes and a lot of the dry tannins that you get out of a French oak barrel and the brown sugars that come forward when you toast it. I think all of that stuff worked really well. I liked that bottle. I think that is something to be celebrated. Maybe you should pick it up. Again, $150 for a bottle of that. Lastly was the barrel pick, 11-year-old MGP juice. Quite frankly, if I'm going to get well-aged MGP juice, I would probably just honestly get like the barrel proof or single barrel Penelope products. You know, the 9 years. Those are bringing some pretty good flavor at a price tag that's much more manageable. But admittedly, they have a bit of an advantage because Penelope is owned by MGP, so it doesn't have to trade hands. You know, they're not buying those barrels off of somebody. It's their own barrels. So that helps keep the price tag down because they don't need to make up the cost of their investment in purchasing those barrels. They did the work themselves. So I don't think I would pick up a single barrel bourbon from Old Louisville myself. I would be more inclined, if it's just well-aged MGP at that point, just to buy Penelope products. But again, the toasted French oak wheated bourbon, that's a winner. I think that's really, really good. So would I recommend that you spend money on Old Louisville Whiskey Company? I think I would recommend that you look at some reviews first, depending on the bottle that you have your eye on. Give them a shot. I certainly endorse trying to support small operations, people who are really passionate about their craft and trying to bring something new and fresh to the table. And they're also trying to honor the heritage of old Kentucky whiskey. And I appreciate that as well. I think it's a great vision. And so I think that I wouldn't discount them. I wouldn't count them out. I would keep an eye on bottles, and if something sounds interesting to you, maybe look up some reviews, some tasting notes, and roll the dice on something that stands out to you in particular. That is the review today of Old Louisville Whiskey Company. Thanks again, Matt, for sending in the samples. I appreciate it. Very kind of you, brother. Hey, if this is not your first time here, you've watched a video or two, hey, consider hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to see you around here more often. Kick your shoes off, stay a while. And a big shout out to my Patreon supporters who fund the bottles that we get to pick up and review here on the channel every month. Channel would not be as vibrant as it is without you guys. Due to the Patreon support, I'm able to pump out more content because I'm able to afford more bottles each month with your generous support. So thank you so much for that. If you want to get involved in our group, we got a Discord group, totally free to get in there. The link is in the description. We have great discussions. There's great people in there. We've got hundreds of people in there now, so it's a really fun place to hang out. And a lot of these guys are actually helping each other out because it's like, hey, I'm looking for this bottle. It's never in my state. And then you got someone else who's like, I always see those on the shelf, but I never find this thing. So there's lots of swapping going on, helping each other out, and that really does make bourbon hunting a lot easier when it's a team effort. So I love the guys in the Discord. If you're ever interested in getting involved in the Patreon group as well, you can join for as little as $1 a month. Just $1 a month, you can get involved in the Patreon group, and we do some fun things like bottle shares, have our own private chat rooms, and do some other fun events as well. It could enter you into a raffle to be able to pick like a blind for my live streams. We've done that as well, so it's a lot of fun stuff to get involved in. So check that out. Link is in the description as well. I'm gonna grab the French oak here and say cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.